My name's Dan.
And I'm Colin.
That was very awkwardly timed. I'm Dan.
And I'm Colin.
All right, let's wrap. My name's Dan.
And I'm Colin.
And we've started a brewery in Norway.
Yeah, called Bent Gate.
Yeah. So, I guess we'll talk about this. Is so awkward. So what will we talk about?
Yeah, so I guess we can start with the story about. We can start from the beginning.
Yeah. So how did you get into brewing?
Yeah, so it started with my job. We had an Australian colleague who moved here and realized that beer was very expensive, and he wanted to make his own because it was a bit more cost effective. And then he brought that knowledge to the company, and we started brewing for our salary beers once a month, and then basically was brewing with them for about a year and a half or so. And then somebody decided to come to Norway.
Yeah, so I moved to Norway for work, and then met Colin. That's a funny story that we'll tell in a bit. And then basically I was also interested in brewing, and had always really been interested in brewing when I lived in Colorado, where I'm originally from. But in Colorado, it doesn't make as much financial sense, and there's such good options that it just never really kind of motivated me enough to really start brewing in Colorado. And then, as Colin said, I moved to Norway, and all of a sudden beer got 3 to 10 times more expensive immediately. So then I was interested in brewing, and then you knew how to brew.
Exactly.
And I bought brewing equipment.
Yeah, so we went down to the beer store, and we got Dan set up with his first brew in a bag system in Meierstua. And yeah, we had our first batch was amazing.
Yep.
Second one,
Not so amazing. Yeah.
we learned some things.
Yeah, definitely had a little bit too much confidence out of the gate. Like, oh man, brewing's easy. We just we made an IPA, so those are a bit easier to brew, I would say. And you, if you make mistakes, they're a bit easier to cover up. And after the few next batches, we learned quickly that we maybe didn't have it figured out.
Yeah, process control and temperature are all very important things. And then basically I went to Copenhagen to finish up my studies, and Dan just kept on brewing and took it to a whole nother level. So yeah.
'Cause my background's in chemical engineering, so in learning that our beer was tasting bad, I was also learning that process control and chemistry is important. And then therefore I was basically like nerding out, like, oh, process control, it's great. And then started brewing a lot. And then I made an event with a partner in Oslo, where we would basically give talks at my apartment and then drink the beer I brewed. Because one of the problems with brewing a lot of beer in the beginning is you can't really drink all the beer that you brew, and you can't brew a lot of recipes. So that allowed me to brew, I think, 55 recipes in 2 years, which is quite a bit. And then the more I started doing that, the more people, as I guess that always happens, are like, you should start doing this as a living and stuff like that. So
Throughout this time, we've been talking, and the brewing got more serious, and Dan really loved it. And I continued with the job at work, brewing at work, and then eventually we're just like, hey, what about a brewery? Like, is this something that we want to do? And then once the permanent residents kind of settled in, it was like, what system we need to scale up to make this a little bit more optimized and have more than just 40 or 60 liters was the first one.
Yep.
Yeah, so at my job, we upgraded our system to Brew Tools, which was amazing. Dan was like, hey, because we were also hitting capacity at work. We only had a 40-liter system, so we're like, we needed to upgrade because the company was growing and we had more mouths to feed beer to. So Dan's like, yeah, you should try out the Brew Tools. Let me know how you like it. And it was just amazing. And then Dan's like, yes, all right, that's what we're going for the brewery. And then, yeah.
Yeah, the Brew Tools is a kind of, I think, a good system for how small my brewery is. It's like 9 square meters, so it's maybe not the most efficient, but definitely space efficient wise, it works really well. And yeah, basically, I was fortunate enough to move to a place and have the financial ability to invest in the equipment from the get-go, and then spent the last year actually starting a brewery in the country that I don't actually really speak the language. So that's been interesting. And I guess on the YouTube videos, you can see the process of learning and the headaches and stuff like that. So yeah, and that's where we are today, is about to sell our first beer. So it's quite exciting, and it'll be interesting to watch this very awkward video in a year.
Yeah.
To see where we come.
But I think, the last year has been a lot about setting up the company and getting a lot of the logistics in place. And, we've taken a lot of time of like making sure we're starting off correctly instead of rushing out of the gate and then, dealing with financial accounting and all of these things later on in a unoptimized way. So I think, and also doing the brand awareness through the YouTube and Instagram and, just slowly, organically building this out. And then this year is pretty much about producing and this next step of the journey, and yeah.
And building our brand, which I guess gets us to the question of bent gate, and what is a bent gate and why?
Yeah.
And I guess, so a bent gate, that name actually came from a bent gate carabiner. And really this is because we met the first time climbing. And then I also really like this name because where I'm brewing, it's in the Gjerdrum Kommune, so it's like a county basically in Norway. And the emblem for that also has a gate, so it kind of has like a bit of a double meaning, like we're kind of like a bent, messed up, weird gate. But it's really for climbing, because it's kind of where we really become friends, is climbing, skiing, things where you need gear, all the gear.
Pretty much just anything. Yeah, gear, mountains, it all goes together. And
yeah, and we thought it was kind of a fitting, because actually the first time we met, it was we met at a climbing gym, and then I think we both had to take, maybe only me had to take the belay test in order for us to do rope climbing there. And so I'm taking this belay test, and it's lead climbing, so then when you fall, you kind of pull up the belayer to take some of the force. And the instructor was like, so Colin's up there and he wants to do a test fall and make sure I can take the fall properly. Yeah, catch the fall. And he's like, nope, let out more slack. And I'm like, I think this is like too much slack. This is not how much slack I would let out.
And I was only like 3-4 clips up. Like, I wasn't even that far up the wall either.
Yeah, so the instructor is insisting that we go into let's say a safe but dicey situation. And so he takes the fall, and as he's coming down, I'm pulled up, and my face just goes straight into your ass. Like, we've known each other for maybe like 15 minutes, and it's like close, and I even hit hard enough that I had like a raspberry on my head. And then like we met up with someone else later, and it's like, what the hell happened to you? I was like, well, we have a story.
Yeah, it was it was the start of a great relationship.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's like really why climbing and outdoors is influential of the brand. And another thing that's kind of been important is I've been learning brewing and this YouTube channel and everything kind of through the community. And so part of the idea here is open source brewing. So on our cans and on our website, we give away our recipes and how we do it. And in our YouTube channel, we discuss, how to start a brewery, how we brew, what we brew, really just to kind of pay it forward. And
like tips and tricks that we've learned along the way, and little optimizations. And I think they're just those tidbits of things that we've learned through our cumulative years of experience of brewing on various systems and processes. So
Yeah, and also kind of learning with us, because we're still definitely not the best brewers in Norway by far, and we're always going to get better and better. So we'll be constantly evolving and improving. So it's kind of, I think, fun for people to, at least I think so, for people to follow along. And then we're already growing a community of brewers and people all around the world. And so it's fun, and it's kind of like everyone's watching us screw up live.
yeah, it's great. We love it. It's, I mean, there's no better way to do it than just send it.
Yep. Yeah. That's all I'm going to say about that. I don't know what else to talk about. I think maybe one thing we could talk about is our goals for this year.
Yeah, I think it is New Year's after all.
Yeah.
What's our resolution for the brewery?
Yeah, so I guess this year, at least for me, the goal in the brewery is, 1, sell beer. Also to, the obvious things, grow the brand, but I would also really like to do kind of a gypsy brew or a contract brew where we are able to brew larger quantities, because in Norway, most people buy their beer at grocery stores where you're only allowed to have below 4.7% alcohol. But in order to sort of provide to grocery stores, you need to brew a lot of beer. And we don't produce here currently enough beer. So I think that's a big plus. And
yeah, 300 cans versus 10,000 cans or something like that.
Yeah. Also, I guess, to run the business correctly for a year.
Yeah, I mean, just go through the logistics, make sure everything's going well, building relationships with bars. We want to try to spread out the brand throughout Norway, and create our own following of people. Like we've decided on a very simple scheme of the can. It's quite information heavy, but that's also due to the nerdiness of us and how we like to do things. So I think we'll see how it goes. I mean, we just have to start, and we'll see how the iterations, like by the end of this year, and what we've learned will be pretty interesting to see.
Yeah, with the can design, we have a great designer, Kate Maloney, and our idea there is sort of simplicity and looking clean. Mostly just because all of the cans that are on shelves are just so damn pretty, and it's really hard to compete with like this amazing artwork, and then before you know it, they all look the same as this amazing artwork. So stand out a bit, and informative, and
and
the more you read, the more you're like, why am I reading this?
Exactly. And then you also have the recipes on the cans, so you'll always be able to see how to make that beer, and it's just a matter of you'll get close enough, I'm sure. I mean, it's...
Yeah, but that's what this channel's for, is if you have questions, just let us know, and we'll help you brew our beer and build a community. I think that's kind of... Hopefully people will follow along, so as we're growing and as we're doing our firsts of selling beer, we'll show as much as we're legally allowed to show. That's all I gotta say about that. I don't think there's anything else now.
I don't think so.
Thanks for joining.
Smash the button. Smash the like.
Yeah. Cool. That's a wrap.